Thank you very much. Now, Carolina, what does it actually mean for you and for Agruppa to invest in every child?
Well, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Carolina Medina. I'm from Colombia, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Agruppa, and also a UN Young Leader for the Sustainable Development Goals, so especially working toward eradicating hunger. What we do in Agruppa, I'd like to start with that to give you a little context, is we work with small grocery shops in low-income neighborhoods of Bogotá, in Colombia. We basically optimize the current fruit and vegetable supply chain between the farm and the mom-and-pop shops in the city. There's usually a 45% markup between the farm and the city. This comes from 4 to 5 middlemen that currently work in this supply chain and that are taking a cut. And essentially, this translates into huge inefficiencies, both for the mom-and-pop shop and, of course, for the end customer who currently purchases at these shops. In Colombia, currently 70% of the food is sold through these mom-and-pop shops. So they have millions of people's nutrition in their hands, and yet they're facing this very inefficient supply chain. So we found an opportunity here to contribute to these micro-entrepreneurs' businesses by optimizing their supply chain by creating a virtual buying group among these shops. We essentially aggregate their demand for fruits and vegetables to buy in bulk at the farm, bring to the city, and then deliver to their shops at wholesale prices. In this process, we're generating savings of 15%, equivalent to 6 minimum wages per year for these mom-and-pop shops, and also contributing to making fruits and vegetables available for everyone at cheaper prices. So what does it really mean to invest in children's rights then? It's the fact that you can do from your own company or whatever initiative or whatever you do in your day-to-day life, something to contribute to making sure that children's rights are protected, that you create a better ecosystem so that they actually have a better future and they can become the adults that we need in a world that will actually be prosperous and developed. So from Agruppa, we're actually contributing to this purpose in a very simple manner, essentially making apples more affordable than chips. Currently, there's around a 58% difference between one apple and one bag of chips. So it's not that mothers don't know what's healthier for their children, but of course, they have to choose from a limited budget. So in making fruits and vegetables more affordable for everyone, no matter where they live, we're actually contributing to a society where children can be properly nourished and grow up to be these adults for the future.
Thank you, Carolina. Turning to you, Paul, what opportunities do you see for business and for the leaders in this room to contribute to realizing children's rights?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I think the real reason I'm here is to contrast, youth against age or something like that.
We'll come back to that.
Yes, you were going to get back to that. I knew that was the question there, So, from a perspective of business, investing in children, the way I see it is that every one of us as leaders here in the room, in our respective industry, we're faced with demands of investing in our companies, to grow our businesses and excel in our marketplaces because it's very competitive out there. And today we've heard about a number of perspectives, and I'm sure that your cell phone messages, believe me, I'm not FaceTiming with my grandchildren here, I'm just using this for my notes here, but your cell phone messages here are full of decisions that you're going to need to make in the next 24 hours and into the future. And I'm here to ask you to consider investing, or I'm asking here to consider the value of investing in a child, a human, and in the future. Physical investments in our business certainly have value. However, it's the right of a child. It's the right of a child to grow into an adult, happy, healthy, and to contribute to our society as a productive human being. So not only do I put this question to you for your consideration, I'm here to reinforce to all of you your obligation. Yeah, your obligation, all of you that are sitting out there, your obligation as fellow human beings to ensure the rights of our children and your role in the reality of making this happen. So we've heard all this talk about making things happen, so let's define the role. We heard somebody say up here a minute ago, okay, it starts from the top. Sure, I'm the owner of the company, I'm the founder of the company, of Atlantica Hotels based here in Brazil. So, I'd like to reflect on something that I can remember when I was very young, I was absolutely convinced, as I think many of you were, that monsters lived under my bed. They lived in my closet. They lived in the dark corners, of my room. And I would call out for my mother, and my mother would come in, and she would have this flashlight, and she'd patiently check underneath my bed, in the closet, she'd look everywhere, and then she would assure me that the monsters have gone. And so I looked to my mother for protection, for assurances, and unconditional love. Amongst many attributes that she had, that was her role. Each of you have that role as well. I sit here, in front of you, representing 5,000 of my colleagues in Atlantica hotels here in Brazil, who every day look to me and to the senior leadership of Atlantica to fight our own monsters. In 2005, Atlantica partnered with Childhood Brazil to fight the monsters that prey on our children. Those who sexually abuse children, those who enslave and traffic children, those who violate our children. Why? Because we at Atlantica Hotels recognize that the tourism industry is at the front lines. These monsters move amongst us in hotels, airlines, travel agencies, cruise ships, and not just in developing countries, but all over the world. In fact, the United States, where I claim citizenship despite Trump being there, is one of the most afflicted companies. Sorry, political statement there, shouldn't have made that one. Was one of the most afflicted countries, in the world, where the monsters have a large target of opportunity. They're in your country as well, so don't be fooled or lulled into a false sense of security or the not me attitude. I mean, this morning I was shocked when I was reading the newspaper and I see that a lifeguard in Miami Beach has been arrested for soliciting prostitution or soliciting a 9-year-old whose father is selling her as a prostitute. A lifeguard in Miami Beach. Come on, give me a break here. Your role is to lead your people into understanding the gravity of this issue. Your role is to lead your people to create a culture, and I'm listening to what they're saying over here, and I'm going to reinforce this. It's a culture and not a program. Programs have a beginning and an end. I'm talking about a culture. Why do I talk about a culture? Well, that's easy, because cultures are sustainable. It becomes the heart of the company. So your role is not only to engage your team, but also your colleagues and your suppliers. Engage your stakeholders, including your shareholders, including your clients that you have in your companies. And then you see results. And in 10 years, we in Atlantica have created a sustainable culture. In fact, in 2007, Atlantica Hotels had the courage to sign the code, which is short for the Code of Conduct for the Protection of Children from Sexual Exploitation, Travel, and Tourism, which aligned our group socially with a socially responsible tourism initiative whose mission is to provide awareness, tools, and support for the tourism industry in order to prevent sexual exploitation of children. Okay, fine. We all know that. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I am both proud of the fact that we had the courage to do that, but I'm also very embarrassed, because Atlantica is the only hotel company, the only hospitality company in all of Latin America to have signed this code. So, to me, it is the start of a battle to win the war. Now, over 5,000 of Atlantica staff members today are fighting the monsters in 90 hotels and in 44 cities here in Brazil. 25 million guests have been told of our fight and have enlisted into our cause. And yesterday we launched the Eyes Wide Open program in all our guest and reception televisions for all guests to see upon arrival during their stay at our hotels. 44 cities. Each purveyor that does business with my company has to sign the Code of Conduct and join our cause. We have engaged the government to embrace our cause. The signing you saw this morning wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. We have engaged the government. We have raised and invested over $3 million. Not reais, because that's, not much, but $3 million we have raised to chase down these monsters. We have built 7 shelters for the victims. And the list goes on because we have a 10-year plan to take this even forward. So now you know your role. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, some of you, I imagine, are going to say, yeah, okay, fine, Paul's up there talking, that's wonderful, he's a great guy, and he's going to be, you might be inspired by the, the words and the actions of Atlantica hotels and everybody here in Brazil, and other of you will leave and forget what I just said. To the latter, I say, you're missing in building value in your company. A company without a community president and without a unifying cause in the community you live and prosper now will not survive. When you walk out those doors and return home, will you simply continue to talk on your expensive cell phones and turn away from those children on the street as you head to your hotel or airport? Or will you resolve to be, as my mother, and adopt a role for your associates to change a human life for the better? Will you shine a light into the darkness? Will you invest in a child? All difficult questions, and I hope I made you feel just a little bit uncomfortable. It's your choice. And with choices come consequences. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. I would like to highlight what a great opportunity we've got here to exchange knowledge and insights between industries, between generations, as you mentioned earlier, and countries within the region. But now, I'd like to ask a question to both of you. It's about the role of the CEO. It's getting more complex than ever before. They need to create long-term value for their companies, for their community. And there's pressure for them to be responsive to many stakeholders. So how do you two see the role, and how do you balance these demands from so many stakeholders? Who wants to start? Carolina.
Okay. Well, now, we're just starting. We are a very young company. We've been operating for a year. And I was telling Paul last night that it's been a challenge for myself as well. I've never been the CEO of anything. And then suddenly I was placed here in a role that took me from being my co-founder and I a year ago to now leading a team of 30 employees, which obviously is nothing compared to what many of you have in your companies and your organizations. But for us, it's been a huge challenge. And with that challenge, there's also come this balancing of stakeholders. Of course, you have investors, and some investors care about the social aspects, some don't. You have the government, who's suddenly interested in what you're doing. Then you have the private sector, who's wondering, why is she doing this way? Why is she disrupting what we're used to doing? In our sector, at least, there's a huge risk for child rights in the agriculture sector. There's, without even realizing, many farmers are employing their own children and not often paying them anything in return. And this obviously means they're not going to school, they're usually not even properly fed to carry out the very heavy lifting and tough tasks that they're imposed by their families, but that they feel is part of what they should be doing. So how do we balance it out, and how do I make sure that my team balances it out, is basically by making it, as Paul was saying, our culture. We know what's right and we know what's not. And we basically live by it every day. We don't agree with farmers that are using children in their collection processes. So if we ever see it, we actually speak up and we speak to them directly. I think, Dante was mentioning it before. I mentioned it in the table earlier today. I think it's the advantage of being a small company that allows us to talk directly to the people that we work with in our supply chain. But I do want to use this opportunity to ask each one of you, and no matter how big your industry or your company or your organization is, to question what you're doing, to really innovate at all levels, because it's never too late and you're never too big to do this. Especially if you're too big to be doing this, then you're probably doing it at a higher level. You're probably influencing and impacting so many people, so many much more people than we are currently impacting. So it's a call. You know, if we can do it, you can do it. And I think there's a great hope for tomorrow if we all just make it the core of what we do every day. It's not about making it something that's on the side. It's not about, you know, we have a policy for children's right protection. We enforce it every day, and I think it's what should be happening everywhere.
Thank you, Carolina. Now, Paul, you've been doing this for longer, and your company is bigger. What's your reflection as a CEO?
Yeah, I appreciate the implication of that. Thank you very much. You know, I have to go back with what she said, you know, and is that, you know, you're never too big, you're never too small. Okay, we're 90 hotels. We have 38 more under construction here in Brazil. We'll be in over 50 cities in the next couple of years. You're never too big, you're never too small. I sincerely believe that within the heart of everybody that has a company in this particular room, that has staff members, they really want to do something to better their role in life. No matter who you believe in, no matter what you believe in, no matter what religion you are, you know, there's that end game that you really want to be able to say, you know what, I'm proud of this. You know, it's not all about the money. You know, it's not all about the fact that I've got the largest hotel company in Brazil. No, it's not about that. You know, when you get a giant hug from a little girl who was pregnant when she was 14 years old and has a 2-year-old kid, you know, it just warms your heart. And this type of attitude within the group, no matter, you know, what kind of size of group you have, permeates not only from the senior level, but to the very, to the very line level, including the housekeepers that make your bed. And those of you who didn't stay in my hotels at the recommendation, you know, I'm sorry, you know, for the competition, but, you know, these housekeepers are involved in, you know, our programs, as is the receptionist, as is the general managers out there. So it's a cohesive effect that helps you as a CEO to really obtain your goals financially for your shareholders, because not only is your staff focused on something they can do better in their community, because they really do want to do something in their community to help. They really do want you to have a clean room. You know, they really do want you to be received well at the desk. They really do want your suitcases to get to your room. They really do. You know, and so that part of it becomes a cohesiveness that allows them a purpose, you know, and it allows for less employee turnover. You know, one of the things we talk a lot about in our industry, especially the hospitality industry, is turnover. You know, if they have something they can believe in, and it's just not, okay, every day I got to clean 20 rooms in 20 minutes. You know, my God, I can't even clean my own room in an hour, you know. 20 minutes, you know, these housekeepers have to clean the room. They've got to have a greater purpose to do that. So we reduce turnover. So when you're thinking as a CEO, you know, a CEO thinks in multiple levels or multiple dimensions, just like you do. You know, you're thinking not only about the share price, you're thinking not only about the returns that you're going to get now, you're not only thinking about your community, you're thinking about your staff, but at the end of the day, who makes that happen? Who makes all that money happen? Is it you? Sitting in your office, you know, chatting on your phone? No. I don't make that bed. You know, I don't check in that guest. You know, I don't do any of that. You know, it's the people, you know. So, you know, as a CEO, you know, focus on your people, and I believe you'll be successful.
Thank you. This is something you've been talking about a bit, each of you, but I'd like to revisit this and connect back to the results of the benchmark report. They show that companies do have policies in place, for example, around child labor, which you mentioned, but very few report back on how these policies are applied. So how do you ensure then that these are implemented? I mean, you mentioned it a bit, but I'd like to go deeper into that. How do you ensure that they become part of how your business operates? And don't end up being just well-intended paper products. I know if Paul, Carolina, whoever wants to start.
You take it.
I'll go for it then. Well, I mean, again, we are, just to give you a little bit of an idea of the size of Agruppa currently, we're currently working with 250 small mom and pop shops in Bogota. This is equivalent to around 30 tons of fruits and vegetables that we move around every single week, just among 20 products. And this traces back to around 40 farmers that we work with. Our goal is to reach this year 850 mom and pop shops. So we're thinking we're going to at least quadruple what we're already doing at the farmer end as well. What we are doing as a group to ensure that this is not just written on a paper, but it actually translates into action, and as Paul was mentioning, into the team and the people who make it happen every single day, because while I'm here, there's people out there, doing everything, delivering, buying products, talking to farmers, talking to mom and pop shops. It's ensuring that they get it and putting the right team together so that they will then ensure that the people below them will also get it. So currently, to talk of a particular example, we're hiring a procurement manager. This is currently done in our company through a logistics manager who was just handling way too many things at the same time, juggling like any startup. You just do absolutely everything. I'm not sure what the role of a CEO looks like later on in life, but in startup world, it's actually called the chief everything officer rather than the chief executive officer. I'm literally doing everything. So what it comes down to is in real life, you need to hire people who start helping you out with those little things. In the case of the procurement manager, this will be a person that's actually, that has a strong background on rural community development. So we've realized it's not just about creating a commercial relationship with farmers, but rather adding value to them as well. Maybe they need support in the financial end. Maybe they need access to products that they use to get their harvest going. Maybe they just need better education on child labor. Maybe, there's so many things out there that they could be needing, and we were focusing at first on just building a commercial relationship. So the way we're ensuring it doesn't stick on the paper is by being creative and using and leveraging our team members, bringing experts on board that know about these aspects and that will actually keep them in mind, and not just at the senior level, but then also going down. So we have people who are buying products every single day at the farm. They know and they feel it's important to be aware if there's kids out there working and to report back to us about it. So it starts, I guess, from the top or the bottom. I don't know. I think it's more about just making it a horizontal feeling and a culture and ensuring that everyone is equally invested in just, having a company that supports its values and is always just sticking around for them.
Thank you. Paul, how do you manage this?
In the business world, many of us always adopt the adage that you can't measure what you don't, or you can't manage what you don't measure, and I would respond and I would say, well, sometimes measuring something isn't really in the numbers, but is in what isn't happening anymore. And let me give you two examples that strike me that just while you were talking just kind of hit my thoughts. I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, I was visiting my clients up in Manaus, and they offered to take me on a boat trip, to go up the Amazon. And by the way, if anybody ever offers you to go on a boat trip on the Amazon, deny it, just say, please, no, don't do that, or bring lots of beer, because it's a terribly, well, you can go to the zoo and see all that kind of stuff. But we get on the boat, we leave, and there's a boat right beside us, and it's full of European tourists. And so we're listening to them. They're rather bowdy and browdy, and they're going on. And a school bus pulls up, and young girls get out and get on the boat with them. Now today, those docks in Manaus have been torn down. You can't do that anymore. So that's how you measure it. The second point that I make is a few years ago, you could check into a Brazilian hotel with an unaccompanied minor. You could, a child. and you say, oh, no, that's my niece, or that's my nephew. Today, you have to have papers to show that that child that you're with is, has permission from the parents, or you're the legal guardians of doing that. Now, that didn't exist 10 years ago. So when you look at how to manage, well, I can tell you that 25 million guests are looking at our, Eyes Wide Open program, or they're looking at our, hey, it's cool to report and it's cool to protect our children. Sure, I can quote those numbers to you, and everybody, ooh, wow, 25 million, But, when that dock doesn't exist anymore for people to board a boat with young children, or I have to have papers to show that that young child that was with me has permission to be with me, that's the way you measure it.
Thanks. Now, when we're talking about and addressing sexual child exploitation, Paul, because I want to ask you a bit more about this. You mentioned a few, have you seen any other developments, especially in your industry, in travel and tourism, beyond the ones you've mentioned and beyond what you do in your hotels?
Yeah, what I see now is arrests. It used to be, the police would look the other way. No big deal. That's part of the culture. And I see arrests. It's just like this case I told you about when I saw, you might say, oh, Brazil's terrible, Africa's terrible, Ecuador, Chile, I don't care, Argentina, the countries that are represented, it's terrible down there, and they say, wow, look at the United States, here's this lifeguard, who probably 5 or 6 years ago, would have gotten away with soliciting sex from a 9-year-old girl, a lifeguard. Teachers, you've seen the reports of the teachers, it's all coming to light. Why? Because somebody shined this light. It's just like my mother's example. They took a flashlight and they say, hey, that's going on. Now that takes a lot of courage, because I'll tell you who doesn't like that, and I'm probably going to offend somebody here, in the audience, and I hope you don't take my residence card from me, but, ministers of tourism hate that. They say, no, you're killing tourism here, because, you're talking about things that, are really nasty. We don't want to talk about them. They're dark things. It's monstrous to talk about that. It makes my skin crawl. How creepy is that, And, yeah, sure, I got called to Brasilia. Yeah, sure, I took a beat down, on it, but I said, guys, if you don't shine a light on it, nothing's going to happen. Everything's just going to keep going.
Thank you, Paul. Carolina, your business model is founded on the idea of reducing inequalities, and in this case, to make affordable food available to everyone, if possible, no matter where they live. Now, how do you see that more companies can actually use the Sustainable Development Goals to grow a sustainable business long term?
Well, I think definitely it's just at the core of what we do, When you are born as a social business and you actually incorporate it into your everyday life, it just becomes natural to you. I think when you weren't born as a social business and you need to reevaluate how you're doing things to ensure that you're not negatively impacting socially or environmentally or whatnot, it's a different talk. So if there's any young people out here, I haven't seen many today, but, or if you're not that young anymore, there's always time to just start something new. And always, my experience has taught me when you're doing something that you feel is positively impacting everyone around you, you're a lot more motivated to do it every day. It just doesn't become a job. It's what you actually are motivated to do. So I definitely see this being a leverage for small companies to grow, because it also attracts attention from people who, like you, are thinking and improving the world positively. And so something really important is you're attracting the right attention. You're not just attracting people who might actually want to hide what's going on, but people who also want to show it and shine light on it. And who want to support creative ways of solving our world's problems. We see problems everywhere, and when Verena, my co-founder, and we started this company, it literally wasn't like we had an aha moment and the world was solved and everything was nice. We were actually posed a challenge. we were told you need to find a solution, a sustainable business model that solves food insecurity in urban slums. And in tracing back this challenge, we actually arrived to what today is Agruppa, after tons of testing, tons of market research and piloting and everything. So I guess my invitation is, you are aware of what are the biggest challenges in your societies, no matter where you're from. And it's in you to find creative ways to solve them. And it's never too late or too early to do this and to have the social purpose at the core of what it is you're doing every day.
Can I tag on something you just said? Because
Of course.
I think this is very important, and she's raising an interesting point, is that people really want to be part of something that's successful, right? And if you want a number, that makes everybody go, wow, in Atlantica last year, we received over 12,000, resumes to be part of our company. So because they like what we're doing. We signed over 7 contracts or 8 contracts in Brazil to manage hotels because the clients and the investors of the hotels like what we're doing. That we're part of this, we're part of this thing, that we have the courage not just to say, let's just make money off of, renting a room or cleaning or whatever it is. They say, but you're part of the community. And I think, what was it, Sally Fields at the Oscars says, and they really like me, so they really like us, and part of one of our core values in our company is Atlantica is a place that you want to work, not a place you have to work.
Well, thank you very much to both of you, Carolina Medina and Paul Sistare. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.